Okay, in the front you'll see the cover over the power jack. This is just to keep water off the jack. There's two switches here to raise and lower the camper, and also to turn on and off this little light. Now this does have a manual override. If you take that rubber cap off, you'll be able to crank that manually if you lose power or if it's not working. Under here are your propane tanks, and these we've filled up. This is pretty simple. You turn on the tank and you're going to point this arrow to which tank you're going to use, left or right. And in the center you'll see if it's green, that tells you you have fuel in your tank. When you're not using this, you'll want to shut these off. Also, if you're going to be parking this and not using it, you're going to want to remove the ground wire from your battery here so it's disconnected. This way, when this is sitting, it doesn't discharge and go dead. But anytime you're towing the camper, your truck's going to charge the battery, and also anytime you're plugged in, it'll be recharged. So that's just when you park it in your yard and you're not going to be using it and you're not going to leave it plugged in. That's when you want to disconnect the battery, if you can remember to do that. So this is the crank handle. This is to run the front jack, so you can crank it manually if you have to. And that also runs your stabilizer legs. You can crank these down also once you have the unit parked. This is the electric cord to plug in. I'll show you where that goes as we walk around. Underneath here you'll see the main discharge ports. So there's two handles here, black and gray. Black is to drain the main toilet, and the gray is for your the main bathroom, sink, shower, and the kitchen sink. So this is your gray water drain, and that's your black water drain. And when you do these, you just take the cap off, put the hose on, and you just pull these like that to drain the tanks. There's also up here, you'll see there's a flush port, and this is used when you're done camping and you go to empty out your holding tank. So usually you do this, the black water tank, you're going to pull that handle, and if you have a hose nearby, you're going to connect it here, and you're going to let that run for a minute or two, and that flushes out the black tank with fresh water so that it's clean when you store the unit. So this is used when you're emptying the tank. Connect your hose, you let that run for a minute or two, and that flushes the black tank. It only flushes the black tank. The gray tank's already soapy water. That one doesn't need the flush. So this only applies to the black tank. And again, that's your main bathroom. That's towards the front of the unit. Back here you'll see a second discharge, and this is only a single valve. This is for the auxiliary bathroom that's in the unit. So the rear bathroom, that's where you empty that tank. And you'll see here you have another flush port to help you rinse that out. So when you're done camping and you empty that tank, that's when you connect your hose here to rinse that out. A couple other things back here. You're going to see you got cable and satellite connections if you want to hook up to either of those. This is where your electric cord goes in. I'm using an adapter here, but again, your camper has a nice heavy duty cord. And this only fits in one way, and once it's in, you just turn it just a little bit and it kind of locks it into place. And that's how you plug in your RV. Now this RV comes with a 30 amp cord. This will work on any RV campground that has a 30 amp service. This is pre-wired for 50 amp in case you ever were to add a second air conditioning unit to the roof. We can change that over to a 50. But as it's come right now, this is just a 30 amp standard RV connection, which is typical for like 95% of the RVs out there are going to use that plug. So that's very common at the campsites. This port here that says city water, this is the main water connection you're going to use at your campground. This is the one you leave connected when you get to a campground, and that provides water to everything inside the unit. The spray port, this is just a little quick connect, and the camper comes with a little sprayer. And I'll show you where that goes when we get over there. It's in the compartment right now. Okay, there's a access hole right here, and that's to lower your spare tire. Again, using that gold crank. You'll also see another port. So this is right by the door. That's another port for that crank, and that's to manually open and close the slide room. If there's a power failure, so you can open and close that. This is the vent for the stove up here. The vent for your furnace, the vent for your water heater, and the vent for your fridge. These are all controlled from the inside of the unit, so you really don't have to mess with any of these unless it's for maintenance or to winterize. I'll show you when we get inside how to operate all that stuff. So 110 outlet over here. Now this port is to fill your fresh water tank. This is used when you go dry camping or to a state park where there's no hose connection. This allows you to fill your onboard tank, so you bring your water supply with you. If you look directly underneath, you'll see a little drain valve, and that's to drain off any unused fresh water from the tank. So there's a light switch in here to turn the compartment light on. And here's your hitch equipment and also the starter kit. Last thing outside is the awning. This is extended right now. This has an adjustment. If you grab this arm and pull straight down, this will lower the awning and create pitch for drainage. If it's going to be a light rain, you're going to want to lower this down like we just did, okay? But normally on a sunny day, you can keep that popped up so the awning's nice and high. But as you can see, if it rains, this is just going to fill up with water, and you can damage these pretty easy if they fill up with water. So be very careful with that. Always lower this if it's raining, and in fact, if it's windy or heavy rain, you're going to want to close this. You don't want to leave this open because again, you can damage this very easily. This is electric, so this opens and closes with a switch on the inside. I'll show you that when we get in there. I do want to point out there is a manual override. There's a rubber cap on the top of that, and that's where you can use a 7/16 socket to manually open and close this awning. In fact, these awnings, if your battery's low, it may not work, or it may go really slow. Also, if it's been closed for a really long time, a lot of times over the winter, they're stuck. And if it seems like you're hitting the button, but it's not moving right away, you may have to get in there with the tool and just give it a couple cranks, and then chances are the button will work after that. The motor only has a limited torque supply, and that's so this doesn't do any damage if it's stuck. So if it hits anything on the way out, it's going to stop pretty easy. So same thing goes if it's closed and it's stuck, you may have to break it loose using the tool to get it to open and close. But again, sunny days, great. If it's stormy, windy, you're going to want to close this up. So this is a light switch on the wall. This is to turn on the bedroom lights. There's also additional lights above the bed. These have little switches to turn them on and off. There's also 2 USB ports in that cubby area for charging cell phone. This bed lifts up for storage. If you pull straight up, you'll be able to get underneath it for some access. There's 110 outlets over here. And there's a little latch for this door. This is just when you're driving down the road to keep this from bouncing around too much on you. Now the window's all open. This particular window has emergency exit feature. So for this, you just kind of push the lever out for a vent, or you can remove the screen if you had to clean it, or if you wanted to use it as an exit, you can get through there as well. These shades you just pull up and down to open and close those. In the bathroom, there's a GFI outlet located. This is going to run other outlets in the camper. If one of the outlets doesn't work, like the TV, you may have to come over here to reset this outlet. This should have a green light anytime the unit's plugged in to show you that it's getting power, and that's a good check if you're trying to do any troubleshooting. There's a foot pedal on the toilet for flushing, and the way the RV toilet works, you have to push the pedal halfway in order to put water in the bowl, and then all the way will flush the toilet. So these don't automatically refill with water like a home toilet. You have to hold that pedal down in order to put water through. There is a removable panel down here that you see. There's a couple screws to get into this. This is where your water pump's located. You don't really have to do anything there, but when the unit gets winterized, that's something that has to get accessed. So you want to make sure you know where that's located. There's a light switch here. This is for the ceiling lights in the bathroom, and there's also a switch up here to turn the fan on. Of course, open this vent first before you turn the fan on. There's a lock here on the shower door when you're traveling. Make sure that that gets latched up so that the doors stay closed. There's another removable panel here, and this is where you access the shut-off valve for the water heater. And again, this is not something you have to mess with. However, during winterization, that needs to be accessed. So again, I just want you to make sure you know where everything's located. Now make sure your doors are closed when you close the slide out, because you don't want to hit that, okay? This is the thermostat for your heating and air conditioning. This is very simple. You hit this bottom button, and you can see right now it says that it's off. If you tap this button, you'll see it'll go through fan, then cool, and then heat, okay? So you just put that on what you want to run, and it basically starts itself. You use these up and down arrows to command the temperature. The fan mode, that runs the air conditioner just to circulate air. If you actually want it to get cold, you have to put it on this cool, either cool high, cool low, or cool auto. And what auto does is if you leave it on the auto mode, once it reaches your set temperature, so say you set it to 70 degrees, once it cools off to 70, it will actually turn the unit off entirely. So this is the air conditioner unit on the roof. This is ducted, so you're going to get airflow all the way to the front and the back. It comes through these little round ducts. You can open and close these, to push air where you want it. If it's really hot in here, especially during the day, you're going to want to open this right here. And this sends all the air directly from the air conditioner where it's the coldest. And that's to get this area nice and cool fairly quick. So the fridge, there's little locks here to open the refrigerator. This is off right now, but to turn this on, you're going to push this button right here. The light will come on. You should see auto. Auto means it's going to try to run on electric first. Right now I have this unit plugged in, so this is going to run on electric. But if we lose power, or if you didn't have electric, it would automatically go to gas. So it knows by itself to go to gas. That's what auto means. And once you plug back in, then it'll go back to electric on its own. You can manually switch it also with the second button. But for the most part, just leave this in auto, and you can allow it to switch on its own as it's needed. This is the light and the fan for your stove. And remember, for this, you need to turn on that little, make sure that flap is open on the outside. You're gonna lift this glass up anytime you're cooking here. And this is real simple. You just turn this knob. I'm gonna light all 3 top burners, and this is your sparker. So these little arrows, this is just telling you this goes clockwise only. Never turn it counterclockwise, the sparker. So that lights your top burners, pretty simple. Now for the oven, and by the way, this little switch is for the light in the oven. And it also turns on little blue lights around the handles. To light the oven, you first have to turn this to that little flame. And now with your thumb, you're gonna push this in. And I'm gonna set the camera up here so I can use 2 hands. So while I'm holding this in, I'm gonna hit my igniter. Now this may take a few tries. Okay, there we go. Now you can see we have a blue flame. So I'm holding the knob in and I'm running the sparker. So hold that in. You have to keep holding that about 15 seconds, and then you can set your temperature, and now you can see the main burner starts. Okay. Okay, this is by the door. This is the first thing you'll see when you come into the unit. This is the main control panel. Down here you have, this is to open and close your 2 slide rooms. This is to open and close your awning. This is the holding tank monitor. This will show you how much liquid is in your holding tanks. Remember, fresh is your fresh water. That's your clean water supply. If you're like camping at a state park and you don't have a hose, this means you put water in your tank at home. This will show you how much water you have left. Black is your main toilet. Gray is your sink and shower. Aux is that rear second bathroom. That shows you how much water is in the waste for the rear bathroom. And then there's a couple light switches over here too. Cabin light, this just turns on the ceiling lights back here. Cap light, these are the 2 LED strips that are on the front cap. And if you go outside, you'll see those. You can put those on at night if you like. This switch here is a little different, and this one is not on and off. It's a center off position. So this switch you can either push up or down. So if you push it up, you're going to get a yellow light on the outside. They call that the porch light. And if you push it down, you're going to get a white light on the outside. And the white light is this LED strip that's under the awning. Okay. The water pump is your pressure pump. This you're going to use, again, if you're dry camping or if you're in a state park where they don't provide water. That's when you turn on the pump, and that creates pressure using water from your fresh water tank. Now, when you go to a campground and you have a hose to hook onto, you don't need the pump. The pump's only if you're standalone camping somewhere. And you'll see water. This says water heater, LP gas. That turns on your water heater, and that'll make hot water using propane, which will work anywhere. That'll work in a state park or in the woods on the side of the road. You can also run your water heater using electric, and that's great when you're at the campground, so you're not burning your propane. And if you want to run your water heater on electric, you're going to come into your main electric panel, and you're going to see there's a breaker here that says water heater, and you can see right now it's off. And if you want to run your water heater on electric mode, you're just going to flip that on, and that runs it on electric. So you can run it 2 ways. Again, you can flip this on for electric, or you can go over here and you can flip this switch on to put your water heater on gas mode. Now we have them turned off right now, and it's important on here that anytime you don't have water on the system, make sure the switches are off, because you don't want to run those dry with no water, because you can overheat the element and you can cause damage to the water heater. Okay, the refrigerator, I'm going to leave that off for the time being now too. These the refrigerator, when you turn on the refrigerator, these have to run about 4 hours to get cold. They don't come on instant, so just keep that in mind. So down here, this table, if you just grab this and pull up, these legs will pop out, and you can then lay the table into this little channel, and you can convert this into a bed by doing that. There's a hidden switch under here, and if you turn this on, I'll show you what this does. There's accent lights in these cabinets. Probably seem better if you open them too. These are great. They're just like a little night light you can leave on. There's also, it also lights up in these cabinets. There's a light in here as well. Kind of hard to see right now, but if you put those on at night, they're great to leave on because it gives you just a little bit of light when you're going through here. There's another one you'll see in here, another hidden switch, and this turns on. There's an accent light over the TV. And again, very bright right now, so not seeing these too much, but if you try those at night, you'll be able to see how they come on a little better. All right, I'm gonna turn the TV on for you. This TV is hooked up to an antenna that's built onto the roof. You can also hook this up to cable, of course, but for right now, we're just gonna use it on antenna mode.
Speaking of waterproof, down to 102 feet.
Turn this down for a second. Behind the TV, you'll see there's a little red button right here. And you see how there's a little light that comes on and off. And that switch turns on the antenna. We're gonna leave the antenna on for now. But if you go somewhere with cable, you're gonna wanna switch the antenna off, okay? And on here, you're gonna see a blue button for the menu. This TV has a very simple menu. You're gonna go into where it says channel, and you're gonna go to this auto scan. And you have to do that if you move this to a new area, okay? Because you know, if you go to another state or something, you're gonna have to basically rescan for channels. There's also some extra ports back here. You can see there's like some HDMI ports and things. So you'll be able to plug in some extra devices over here. Down here you have a radio, and this does a couple things. This has 2 speaker zones, zone 1, zone 2. Zone 1 is outside, and zone 2 is inside. So you can run both of those, and that will give you audio inside or outside. There's also a Bluetooth mode. That'll allow you, if you got music on your phone, you can play it through the radio. And there's some other modes here too, if you wanted to plug in, you know, like something down here, you know, you can do that. So you can go through and kind of mess around with that a little bit. This also, that'll play CDs and DVDs also. It's hooked up to the TV to play DVDs. Okay, there's a switch on the wall, and this does the ceiling lights. All of these ceiling lights, by the way, they also have switches on them. So, you know, if you don't want all the lights on, you can also shut them off using the switch on the light. Okay, back here, there's a plug. There's also 2 USB ports. In the rear bathroom, you'll see you got a light switch here. There's another fan switch up there. You're gonna find the same toilet. It's got a foot pedal on it to operate it. And remember, anything in the back bathroom that goes down the drain ends up in that aux tank. So that's got its own holding tank separate from the rest of the unit. Okay, in the bucket is your starter kit, and I'll go over some of the items in here with you. So This is a wash and wax. This is used on the exterior. This is a non-abrasive cleaner. It's something that's safe to use on the roof, the awning, your car. It's a nice soapy cleaner to use to keep it looking nice. There's also some RV marine toilet paper. Now this paper is special for RVs because when it sits in your holding tank, it will dissolve. And that's to prevent clogging and to prevent fouling the sensor that tells you how much water's in the tank. So make sure you use RV marine paper when you're out camping. There's also a 25-foot freshwater hose, and this is just like a garden hose, except this is drinking water safe. This is what you use to put water into your camper. And this is a waste hose, so this is what's used to empty the camper. On the other side, remember where you had the cap, where your black and gray valves are. You take the cap off, this screws on, the other end goes into the port in the ground. This is the electric adapter. This goes on the end of the cord, and this converts from a camper plug, which is a 30 amp, down to a 15 amp, so you can plug this in at home or with an extension cord if you need to. Inside this bag are 4 pouches or 3 pouches of the chemical for the toilet. And before you go camping, you take 1 pouch, you flush it down the toilet, and that stays in your holding tank while you're camping. The last item is the water pressure regulator. This screws on to the faucet at the campground before you connect your hose. And that's to limit the water pressure coming into your camper so that it doesn't damage anything inside the unit.